Hi, this is Matt with State of Flux here to give you my Week 5 challenge from Everyone's a Critic. Week 5's challenge is an early film of a famous actor or actress. I chose actress because I honestly couldn't decide who my favorite actor was. Favorite actress for me, without question, hands down, is Sigourney Weaver. And her most famous early film where she had a prominent starring role is Alien. Year produced was 1979. The aspect ratio is 2391. Runtime, I think for the director's cut, is an hour and 57 minutes. Though it feels way longer. Genre is horror and sci-fi, obviously. Rated R. Starring Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, John Hurt, Veronica Cartwright, and Harry Dean Stanton. And I'll talk about the two that I did not mention as well shortly here. Directed by Ridley Scott, produced by 20th Century Fox, written by Dan O'Bannon, and then revised by Ronald Shusett. Shusett? And I will touch on that in a minute too. Music by Jerry Goldsmith. Awards received. It only won one Academy Award, which to me is kind of wild. It won a good one, Best Visual Effects. And I think without question the visual effects in that movie are pretty astonishing. Especially for 1979. It was also nominated for Best Art Direction, which it did not win, and that blows my mind. Who could think of anything that is more alien-looking than Alien? Like, how did that planet work not win them their Oscar? Also, I see nothing about makeup or costuming, and that seems kind of wild. Maybe those awards didn't exist at that time, but if they did and it wasn't nominated, holy crap, did they miss the mark. And then this one is an important one as well. It's not an Oscar, but the BAFTA. Sigourney Weaver won a BAFTA for Most Promising Newcomer, which sort of cements kind of why I chose this movie. Sigourney Weaver is a powerhouse of a performer, and in this film, she really shined, like, incredibly well. She stood her own with all of those aforementioned people, some of whom are incredibly gifted actors as well. And when you think of the movie, you really think of her, even though she doesn't come to her own until the last quarter of the film, really. Why did I choose this particular film? Sigourney Weaver is my favorite actress. This is her, the movie that made her a star. Memory serves, she was working at the Guthrie in Minneapolis, where I'm from, and that's when she signed on board Alien. So that's a fun little local piece of history that at least that's how it's always been told to me. Have I seen this movie before? Yes, I have many times. However, I haven't watched it in probably 2 decades. Like, last time I watched it was probably 2007 or so. I know that I had plans when Prometheus came out that I was going to watch Prometheus and then I was going to watch Alien right afterwards, but Prometheus kind of sapped all life and energy out of me, and I did not return to this movie afterwards. Until now, until I was kind of brought forth to do so. Yeah, I guess this is a good time to state it, because the next question is, would you recommend this film, why or why not? Yeah, I'm going to give a recommendation, but I don't like this movie. I respect it more than I like it. This is a weird movie where I think that the movie is good in spite of itself. It's not actually good, but technically so incredibly well made that you can't not give a recommendation to it. The visual effects, the production design, the sound design, the score, the way things just visually are told is unparalleled. I can't think of another movie quite like this that's so on fire, firing on all cylinders. where the only aspect that kind of holds it back is that it falls to the most basic of conventions of the horror genre that bad filmmakers resort to when they don't know how to create an organic scare from the screenplay. They have to manufacture a scary scene that defies logic around the film. And that's what pulls me out of Alien. This is essentially just a rehash of Halloween or any slasher film, just with a terrifying monster instead of a Michael Myers or something like that. Those aren't criticisms. I'm a horror fan, and I like horror movie monsters. I just did a review for Scream not too long ago where I just sung the praises of that film. Which is all about horror cliches. However, where I think this film really drops the ball is you have a scary scene of Dallas in the ducts. And rather than come to a scary conclusion that's organic to the story of like this alien is hiding in the walls kind of thing, you have like a motion tracker, and then he like senses that he's in danger, and she's like, "Go run away!" And then he like goes down a ladder, and she's like, "No, the other way!" But you're watching it, and you're seeing the two things are meeting, which is why he went down the ladder in the first place. It's asinine, and then turns around and boom, boo! There's the scary moment. The alien's there. Boo! Gotcha. And it's just bogus. You have a scene where you have a collective of people, 3 people, this is the scene before it, who are going to find this little alien and whatnot. And then there's like a cat, and then the 2 people are like, why don't you go off alone and go get it? This is a popular convention in horror movies, but when you're specifically instructed to go in teams and track this thing down, and then you willfully separate yourself from the team and then get abducted up into the piping. That's asinine. And then you have like Veronica Cartwright, who's just shrieking in terror as the alien is slowly coming to her, and you have Parker being like, "Get out of the way! Get out!" And she's not moving or whatever. Yeah, sure, I get that she's afraid, but he has like, it's a 3-dimensional space. If she's in the line of fire and that's what the concern is, why doesn't he move to the side and of the alien and shoot it that way? You know what I mean? It's things like that. This is a movie built around the medium of the lens, and that's what makes it scary. And it's lazy is what it is. Absolutely lazy. Like, you could have achieved great organic scares to this film without resorting to laziness, such as the Dallas scene, I think, is the most egregious one for me. But most of the deaths outside of John Hurt's are like just the laziest of low-tier scary movie hijinks, and it's so disappointing because everything leading up to those scenes, once it becomes a scary movie, is when it sort of fumbles the ball hardcore until it's just her and it. So, would I recommend this movie after just bashing it? Yeah, because it looks really good. It's a great looking movie, and it inspired other great horror movies or action movies or whatever you want to term them. Some even within this same franchise. Some definitely outside of it. But were we not to have Alien, we would not have gotten The Thing or Predator or any number of movies that tried to capitalize on the successes this movie does have. And we wouldn't have the career that Sigourney Weaver has taken off in having. She is, if Jamie Lee Curtis is the Scream Queen, then Sigourney Weaver's the Space Queen. And we wouldn't have this wide breadth of a career in genre films were it not for this movie. So I have to give it recommendations based on that. I think the strongest elements are all the technical ones, and the weakest elements are from lazy writing / directing. And a lot of those lazy writing things don't come from the Dan O'Bannon screenplay. They come from the Ron Shusett and Ridley Scott revisions on the screenplay, including the insanely well acted Ian Holm subplot with the android that is completely pointless to the movie, were it not that Ian Holm is not an incredibly, or was not, R.I.P., an incredibly gifted actor. That movie would have crumbled under the weight of the asinine android plot, which is something that Ridley Scott is obsessed with. See Prometheus and Covenant. All right, moving on. I will have more to say, but all these questions thus far had left. The last question is anything else you'd like to add. I also have one major problem that I have with this movie, but I want to touch on that at the very end, so stay tuned. Which character were you most able to identify with or connect with, and in what way? All right, so here's the thing. These characters, this movie has been praised in the past as sort of like a character study of truckers in space, and I think like there's on some surface level a little bit of that, but I think that's been overblown, like way out of proportion, because none of these characters really have much to them. Most of what the successes for the character work in this don't come from anything written on the page. It comes from what the actor is bringing to it, and that actor is bringing to it basically just a revised version of themselves. So if you like Parker, as I do, of the male characters, Parker's my favorite. It's because you like Yaphet Kotto. And Yaphet Kotto gives a stunningly fantastic performance with nothing to go off of. It's all just purely him, and he is so effing good. I was kind of surprised a little bit that the performance work in this didn't get a nomination, because I think that Yaphet Kotto and Ian Holm and then Sigourney Weaver gave just shockingly amazing performances for B sci-fi movie with an A budget. So yeah, to answer that question is, are there any characters you identify or connect with? I connect with Parker because I really like Yaphet Kotto just as an actor. He's incredible. He was R.I.P. That's another thing, watching this movie in 2022, with the exception of Veronica Cartwright, Sigourney Weaver, and Tom Skerritt, they've all passed. And it's really hard. Harry Dean Stanton, exceptional actor, he's gone. Last year we just lost Yaphet Kotto. The year before that was Ian Holmes. A couple years prior to that was John Hurt. This movie kind of hard to watch now, because these are like some A-level actors that are no longer with us, and that really kind of hurts. But the number one character that you identify with in this film is Ripley, because she's the one who's doing the thing that people do in horror movies, which is the logical thing. No, we're not going to bring that thing on board. We can't. Like, we're supposed to quarantine. That means for an hour you have to sit out there in that snow. Ash lets the alien in. She, at every turn, is the one doing the right thing, so she earns the right to survive. And I like that. Backing up 1 second, when I was talking about the lazy horror writing, let's just move to the end of the movie for a brief second with Ripley. She does the right thing in horror movies the entire way through, except for the very ending, where she's in the spacesuit and she has her gun aimed at the thing, and the thing's looking at her, and it gets out, and then she turns her back on it until suddenly it's right there in her face. And why? Why does she do that while she's singing Lucky Star? There's no reason for her to turn her back on the alien, and she does. And it's like, what in the blue hell is happening? Luckily, she's the quick draw in the moment, blasts the thing out the space chute, and it goes flying away and blasts off into space. Anyway, Sigourney Weaver's Ripley is the one that you identify with most, because she's the one making the decisions you would make in this movie up until the end, where she turns her back on the damn creature. Best line or most memorable quote? I don't know if there's a best line, but there's a lot of really well acted scenes, particularly the ones between Ripley and Parker, where like Ripley's talking to Parker and Harry Dean Stanton down in the lower decks, and they're talking about pay and stuff like that, and they have the really poorly ADR'd fuck off line. But then, like, after Harry Dean Stanton's been killed and Ripley is trying to hash out a plan, and Parker's like saying, "Oh, we're lost," and she's like, "Well, you just listen to me, Parker." That part is great. Those two really carry it. That whole scene where he explains, like, the alien, he's like, this thing is fucking huge, man. That scene is really good. But there's no one line. I think the one line that you take away from this isn't a line in the movie per se, it is the tagline to the movie, which is, "In space, no one will hear you scream." And that's something I want to draw attention to. The advertising for this film is fucking fantastic. You don't see anything of the alien. You don't see anything of the story. You just get quick cut glimpses of what the movie is, just in very quick motion. And it's really great. Check out the trailer, the original trailer to Alien. It is fantastic. Alright, moving on. Were you surprised by the ending? Yeah, I was surprised she turned on her back to the creature for no damn reason. What would you do differently? Not that. I like the idea of the showdown between her and it. But Ridley Scott had, like, backed himself into a corner, right? He made this thing scary because you haven't seen it yet. But if you have a scene where the character is just staring at it, his fear was that the creature was going to lose its fear level. And you know that she has a weapon and it doesn't. However, I feel like there's other ways you could have achieved making this scene scary. You know that it has acid for blood, so, like, if she does shoot the thing, is it going to, like, bleed through the hole so she can't shoot until it's away from any, like, vital cords? You could have established that there's cords or cables, or, like, the sleeping compartment or something that it's, like, crawling over as it's coming towards her, and she can't shoot it because it would bleed through that, and it could bleed right through the hole. There's ways to make the thing scary without her turning her dumbass back on the thing so that it can sneak up on her. That scene is just... it hurts. Because this movie is better than that, or it should be. So yeah, I will say the best part of this movie, besides the first, like, half hour or so, is exceptionally great. Everything, getting to the alien planet, the wake up or whatever, seeing the discussion of going down to the planet, being on the planet, the crash landing to it, the journey to the planet, the thing getting on him, it coming back in, then the thing comes off his face, goes missing, the guy wakes up, the chest bursting scene, all of that is great. It's from the chest bursting scene forward for about 40 minutes that this movie becomes so asinine and almost like a chore to get through, because it's just a series of lazy horror cliches up until it's just her and it. And from the moment that she discovers Parker's body and Lambert's and then goes off, that movie is tense and wonderful and exciting, and it loses you again one last time when she turns her dumbass back on the thing. So yeah. Did you see hints of the star's later acting style in this early film? Absolutely. The one thing you don't see in this is any sense of levity. Like, she has some, like, kind of somewhat joking moments with, like, Parker and stuff like that, but not many of them. There's, like, just that one scene, and she's not the one that gets the laugh out of it. It's more him. The one thing that this movie doesn't showcase is Sigourney Weaver's excellent comedic timing. She's a stunningly good comedic actress. See something like Galaxy Quest to get proof of that. But you see her strengths, her vulnerabilities, her feminine qualities that would move on to great success in films such as, like, Working Girl, and certainly the rest of the Alien franchise, and Ghostbusters, or Dave, or any number of films on in the future. Like, she is Gorillas in the Mist. She's a genuinely, astonishingly great actress, and you see most of those qualities in this film. put to great effect. Anything else I would like to add? All right. So the last thing I would like to add is, when I said that this movie's kind of a good movie in spite of itself, I feel like some of the praises this movie gets are kind of a little bit unearned or misguided. One of the biggest ones that I take issue with is its strong use of feminism, and I think that's entirely accidental. Not only because the film was, as written, all the characters were men and they just decided to hire a couple of females and gave us possibly one of the top 3 greatest final girls of all time in Ripley. But like, none of these, for it to be strong feminine feminist representation, there should be some feminine qualities to some of these characters that might like establish them as not just being one and the same as any other character. Everybody is interchangeable in it, and just because you let one of the females live, it's not necessarily where that stems from. It is cool seeing a female in power, and she's a pure businesswoman throughout the thing, thinking on company regulations and stuff like that, and motivated because of that. But one of the other things I take issue with is the pseudo rape scene. First of all, the stuff with the android is completely asinine. It doesn't work. It's confusing while you watch the movie, at least for the first time. You get hints of Ash's robotic nature sprinkled throughout if you know it's there and you're looking for it. But if you're watching it for the first time, it just takes you out of left field. And then the faux rape scene kind of undercuts any kind of feministic stance you could take with this film. And then also the fact that the screenwriters said that, like, the motivation of this film and why this is a scary monster is that it is all a metaphor for rape. The thing is, the original name of the thing was a face fucker, not as a face hugger. And the face fucker impregnates you and creates the phallus that bursts through your chest. And originally this was all written for all male characters. So therefore, you have the intention was to show men the true fear-inducing brutality of rape. This whole thing is like an allegory for rape, so much so that you have this being that's a robot that is incapable of doing such rapes, that when he gets alone with a woman for the first time is like pantomiming that because he can't do it himself, and he admires this thing that is a pure raping being. But the problem with that is if the intent is to show, like, your male audience the allegorical fear and aggression that comes from this rape creature, you kind of get some homophobic readings from that, especially being that this entire thing is just a giant phallus. And especially for the time that it came out, I think that the homophobic subtext of the film is really quite strong, and something that's not often talked about, which is kind of concerning. I think Ridley Scott or whoever did this, made a good choice by not making it an entirely male-driven crew and having 2 female characters as well. But then he makes one of those female characters purely a screamer and have no active agency in her own rescue, which could have been so simple as to take a sidestep from the alien while the other man blasted it with fire. Or you have the Ripley character who is both brutalized and given a pseudo-rape scene with this robot, as well as the moment that she's alone on the ship, you have her completely undressing and stuff like that to show a level of faux nudity. It's just kind of misguided. So I think it either has a homophobic subtext or a poor case of feminism. And it's strange that this movie is kind of applauded for being like this erotically driven horror film without any actual sex or anything like that, and it's also kind of praised as being kind of a weird feministic horror film when that really doesn't ring true either. So that's my final thoughts on Alien. What works with the movie are all technical achievements. This film is incredibly busy. Like, every single frame is incredibly busy. And in the beginning 10 minutes or so, that's really distracting, but once you have an alien on board, your eyes are so trained to look at every single area, you start to miss where the alien actually is. That's quite brilliant. That's a brilliant use of putting so much on a frame to make it so busy. Normally that would be a drawback. Here it's a huge advantage. The sound is great. The performances are great. Everything about this movie is great except for when you apply thought to the screenplay and how lazy some of its scares are achieved. So that's my thoughts on Alien. I will give it 3 out of 5 stars according to this book, or in my own star rating system. I'd give it a very strong 2.5 out of 4, or really like the lowest 3 out of 4 stars that I would ever give anything. I would recommend it just because it is visually intriguing and a technical achievement to behold. And also has some really stunning performances, especially from Sigourney Weaver. But I'm rambling. My challenge for next week is a film with subtitles. Well, ain't that fun? I'm excited about that. I have plenty of subtitled movies that I need to watch that I've never watched, still wrapped in their like plastic wrapping. So that'll be fun. You're gonna get something new from me next week. But until then, let me know what you think of Alien. Am I way off the mark? Do you completely disagree with my proclamation of its homophobic subtext and or anti-feministic subtext? Do you have a problem with everything I just said? Let me know in the comments below, or let me know that give me firm affirmations that I'm right in this and that I made you look in this movie a different way. Drop down in the comments below anything you have to say. Like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.